Okay, so here we go, video 3. I'm going to do my best to keep this as short as I possibly can while ensuring you still have all the information that you need. So the last one is a disorganized or insecure attachment. And reasons for this could be, not necessarily always, having a young or inexperienced mother which was lacking the necessary parenting skills or understanding of how to care for a child. That person might also be wanting to still live their young life, which is understandable, but it does have an impact on the development of the child. So the caregiver here also might have been experiencing depression due to things like isolation. Oftentimes when stay-at-home moms have possibly developed depression, and that is why they always say, if you have post-traumatic stress, or if you have postnatal depression, to seek the necessary support that you need, because it does also impact, not always, but does sometimes impact the development of the child. It also might be in cases of when you're lacking social support, you have hormonal problems, or when, something like that which forces you to withdraw from the caregiving role. So these children show a lack of clear attachment. Their actions and responses to caregivers are often mixed behaviors. It's difficult to understand what they're going to do. So sometimes there's avoidance, sometimes there's resistance. Sometimes these children their behavior seems almost dazed, and they're either confused or apprehensive in the presence of their caregiver. It looks strange, it looks confusing. They may not be able to really understand, what they're supposed to do in every situation. There's inconsistent behavior basically with this child, and sometimes you'll see this from the age of 6 or around the age of 6. They might actually take on the parental role. They might actually become a parent to the siblings or even to their parent. They might act as a caregiver towards their parent. They might act that they need to do the one that they have to provide the parental support in the relationship. Children who act as these figures, there's a difficulty to understand where the line is. So these parents who act as who are supposed to be figures of calmness, they often represent both fear to the child but also reassurance. So it's very confusing. The child is not understanding, is there fear here, is this reassurance, is there trust here, is there not trust? So because this child feels comforted but also frightened by the parent, there's confusion that develops because they don't really know what is supposed to be happening. And insecure attachment leads to children and adults that are unable to really have a clear connection to the caregiver. There's very confused and apprehensive behavior, and as adults they also don't know how to develop healthy relationships that are long-lasting and that have the clear indicators of a relationship which is by two clear, understanding adults. So this is really what you'll see in a situation with an insecure attachment style. So as I said, I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to keep you on these videos for too long, but here's just some characteristics of the various attachment styles. As you can see, we spoke about disorganized or insecure attachment here. These things such as, so disorganized does have characteristics of both, but there's a lot of fear of rejection. There's low self-esteem, low sense of worth, difficulty holding a job sometimes, difficulty maintaining a relationship. And these things, they're not as clear as I said in this video. They're not as clear cut to just see what it's about, but it will result in unhealthy behaviors in relationships where the partner might disappear. He might not be, or she might not be consistently available. They are not engaging in healthy communication with their partner, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of characteristics that you can read here. I'm going to go on to the next one. And so these are some characteristics of the various attachment styles that we spoke about as well. As you can see, the different names is secure attachment here, anxious attachment, avoidant, and then the other use fearful attachment. And obviously it just depends on who is writing the piece because people use different terms. But the characteristics are what really you want to see. Like I pick up this quickly, it puts up walls and avoidant attachment. You might think this child or this adult is putting up walls. Why? might be because of the attachment style. You might see fear of losing relationship. I think we spoke about that earlier. There's an anxious attachment style. So they are clingy on separation, but they can also be aggressive, which pushes people away, although they want the person, because they don't know how to healthily communicate their needs. Okay, and so in adulthood, attachment styles, we use them to describe patterns of attachment in romantic relationships. So we talk about the models here, positive models, so secure positive models of themselves, positive models of others. And in terms of anxiety avoidance, there's low anxiety, low avoidance in the secure attachment style. And the characteristics, comfort in relationships with intimacy and self-confidence. And as you can see, they all have different criteria. Okay, so take some time to read that. I'm going to move on. And to the last slide. I'm sorry, it's a bit small, difficult to see. I've just made it a little bit bigger, but it is not as clear as I'd like it to be. I see I haven't added the reference here, but this is from the attachment project, and the website said it was updated in 2022. But I think this particular article was from 2021. I just used the image from there because I think it nicely shows the various components of a relationship. And this one specifically is focused on jealousy in a relationship, which I thought was quite nice, just for us to look at one component. So like I said, there's a lot of research on the topic. There's a lot for you to look into and to understand around attachment. Remember, attachment does play a big role in everything that happens to us. In childhood, if there's abuse, for example, those patterns of abuse do become hardwired into someone's brain. I've spoken about this before in educational psychology, in that when we are young and we are in the process of developing coping patterns and developing behaviors and developing habits, when our neural pathways are being every time we learn a new skill, a neural pathway is created. So think of your brain as a think of your brain as, for example, I like using examples of a field. So where you're going to plant corn or whatever the case is. So the more that you dig up a specific pathway, the more you go down a specific pathway, if you dig it more and more, you walk it more and more, it will become deeper and deeper and deeper, and that will become a pathway, whatever the case is. Our brain is exactly the same. So if a child takes up the guitar, for example, they play the guitar once, they play the guitar twice, the more they play it, the better they become. And it says that you need 10,000 repetitions to become an expert at something. So the more someone does something, the more it becomes hardwired in our brain, and that is how a neural pathway develops, and that becomes your habit. So because of that, that is, if children consistently are exposed to abuse or exposed to inconsistent parenting, a neural pathway develops, and that is how they respond to everything else in their life, unconsciously and consciously, because that is what they're used to. That is what the neural pathway is telling them to do. And that is why as an adult it's very hard to unlearn behaviors, because it's been so consistent throughout our lives. Some people find it very hard to trust because they've never had a trusting relationship. I'm sorry, this keeps coming up. They keep struggling to trust people because they have never been exposed to healthy, trusting, dependable relationships in their life. And this is the same with children. In your classroom, they don't know how to regulate their behavior. They don't know how to interact in a healthily and respectful way because it's never been modeled for them. It's never been available to them. They've never understood what it is to be in a healthy relationship. So I hope that this has given you some insight into what attachment styles really is, or what they are, and how it affects the behavior of an individual. I now focus a lot on adults here, but I try to extend it beyond looking at children, but obviously this is applicable to the middle childhood period which we are focusing on. So I do hope that it gave you some insight. I hope that it sparked your interest in the topic and that you'll do some more research here. And I do hope that you enjoy the topic as well. This is the reference list. Some of the references that I've used, and of course I also haven't added it here, but the YouTube video that I have uploaded is also, of course, one that I've used also to prepare this video. I do apologize, I see I haven't removed the comma here, but in any case these are your references, and good luck with the task based on this video.